Hello everyone, welcome back to the Zekko football channel. Brentford have beaten Chelsea yet again in the Premier League. This is actually their third successive victory against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and today we're going to be diving down into what Thomas Frank and his side did so well to get another victory. If you are new to the channel, please make sure that you subscribe, you like the video, and you turn on those notifications. It really helps me out and it's very much appreciated. And now, let's talk Brentford. I want to start with the team lineups. We can talk about attacking momentum all we want, but really, I believe the team lineups are where the game is really won and lost. And for me, Chelsea almost gave away their hand from the very beginning. You know how Brentford are going to set up. Their strength in numbers at the back, their ability to really block off the centre of the park, and then forcing teams out wide. Chelsea almost played into their hands with this. Moises Caicedo and Conor Gallagher are not the most creative players, and knowing the fact that you miss Enzo Fernandez in this game, Cole Palmer has so much to do. Raheem Sterling and Noni Madueke are being asked to do so much more, especially with the lack of creation from the middle of the park. And then you talk about the fullbacks, the lack of intensity from wide areas and the lack of quality from wide areas is really what hurt Chelsea in this game. And this is down to the way that Brentford set up their side and forced them into scenarios they did not want to be in. Let me explain. Typically, it's very difficult to play against a back five, especially if you're not really pushing players forward. Chelsea opted for a double pivot in this situation, I'm assuming to stop the counter-attack. But what Brentford ended up doing was just pack that midfield, and it's this midfield three that I think did a lot of the work. They shuffled from side to side, but at the same time they made sure that it was an absolute no-go zone for Chelsea to go through the middle of this Brentford team, and it almost created like a massive box with these three players packing in that midfield with the low block that Brentford were having. This pushed a lot of the play out onto the wings, and it allowed Brentford to really isolate Chelsea in different scenarios. Because of the way that Sterling likes to play, he likes to cut inside, not necessarily go around the outside. The same goes for Madueke. They required and would have needed a lot of overlapping runs, if not to be able to take the ball, but just for decoys. Axel Disasi failed to do this on any kind of occasion, and generally you had the likes of Marco Correa who would get the ball in these more difficult and dangerous situations, but he failed to really create anything from the opportunities that were given to him. And it's through the packing of the midfield that just allowed Brentford to simplify the game that little bit more. The likes of Brian Mbomo and the likes of Visser dropping back and doubling up on the Chelsea wingers. This meant that Chelsea didn't really have any avenues, and the main man in himself, Cole Palmer, needed to drop that little bit deeper to try and find some extra pockets of space. This is why he was getting so frustrated with Nicholas Jackson, because Jackson just would not make the run that is required for Cole Palmer to try and find him. And in all of this, Chelsea just failed to find any kind of way to open up pockets of space, to open up any creative actions. Cole Palmer ended up getting a little bit more frustrated and thinking that he needed to do everything himself. The fullbacks just failed to support their wingers, and the wingers did not have enough creativity or space to even allow them to either move inside or to go on the outside in the overlap. Brentford were able to deal with everything that Chelsea threw at them, and that's because of the solid defensive shape that these midfielders were able to create. Couple that with the back three who were able to shuffle from left to right to be able to deal with any kind of outside pressure that Chelsea would create, Brentford really put on a defensive masterclass. And now we double back to this idea. We double back to Marco Correa, we double back to Disasi. The lack of attacking intent from these two is really what hampered Chelsea. If we have a look at the average positions, Disasi looks like he's really far forwards, and so does Cucurella. But Cucurella, even though he got further forwards and he got into attacking positions, his quality on the ball just was not there. And then we need to talk about Disasi, because although Disasi did support Madueke, he never went beyond. He never tried to break the lines. He never tried to give Madueke an extra option. And for that reason, Madueke really failed to break into any kind of rhythm. He failed to break into any kind of lines. The performance was poor. There was no quality on the ball. There was no quality through midfield, because we've spoken about this and how Brentford managed to pack that. Instead, they were forced out wide, and the lack of creation and quality in these wide areas for Chelsea seriously hampered them, and it made the opportunities that they got in the end that little bit more difficult to take. They weren't quality opportunities, and we can actually see this from the shot creation map. If we have a look at actual Chelsea's chances, they had 17 shots and 2 of them are on target. And I'll just flick through some of these because the possible XG for some of these is just terrible. 0.05, 0.05, 0.07, 0.13, 0.04. These aren't chances, not really. And when you think about the position that they're being taken outside the box, just on the edge of the box, Brentford were extremely comfortable with the way that the game played out, and then it was utilising their ability on the counter-attack, their pace in transition, and their quality from set pieces. Their physicality just overwhelmed Chelsea, and it was something that Chelsea seriously could not deal with. Disasi switching off at the back post, there wasn't enough pressure from Cucurella to stop the cross coming in, and then you've got the lack of intensity with Chelsea and the lack of ability to maintain possession and maintain domination of the ball. They didn't have good possession in these crucial areas, forcing Brentford back. Instead, Brentford looked extremely comfortable, and it's all of this put together that allowed Brentford to have a pretty alright day. Let's finally have a look at a couple of in-match moments. This is the first one I want to show you. The spaces in between the lines just aren't there for Chelsea. Brentford making a good job of holding their line and making sure that they're pushing up ahead, but at the same time staying very, very compact. This is a low block, but at the same time it doesn't mean that you can have spaces in between the lines. This makes it that little bit more difficult for Chelsea to try and play through. The aggression from Brentford in this game was absolutely sensational. Look at the likes of Collins pressing up against Palmer. He needs to find some space, but there isn't any because of the aggression that Brentford is showing. And then we have one of the options that Chelsea had, but they're limited to such fine margins that when this pass comes over, you need to almost take it instantly, and for a player like Cucurella, it just wasn't possible. This is down to the line that Brentford played continuously, keeping the width, making sure that it's condensed and making it difficult for Chelsea to try and pick those passes. And this is Brentford going forwards, always looking for those passes through the lines. This is Conor Gallagher not being able to mark the Brentford midfielder from coming through and making that run towards the byline. This is an actual carbon copy of what happened for the goal. The run into space behind, off of the back of players was just brilliant from Brentford, and they make a brilliant pass into the box and arguably should have scored, but it shoots straight against Sanchez and it was able to be saved. But again, this was a warning shot for Chelsea. They needed to be more alert here. Caicedo needed to read the space. You needed Palmer to try and make sure he was following a run. And then what's more damning is that look at all the Chelsea centre-backs. Look at all the defenders. Stagnant, not moving, not being proactive, not being aggressive enough like Brentford were. This is a better moment for it. This is a better image. The ball gets played towards the byline. There is a run off the ball. Gallagher does not follow it. The ball gets played in towards the back post or towards the edge of the box. The players are running onto it. No Chelsea player is reading this situation. No Chelsea player is reading this moment. And it's in this instance that Brentford did manage to get an opportunity, but it was a massive warning sign for Chelsea. This is the goal. And it comes from a throw-in. No Chelsea player is really looking at the ball. Look at Sterling. He's actually not paying attention to what's going on. He doesn't know when the ball is going to be thrown. He doesn't know about the position that he's going to need. Does he need to pick up this Brentford player? Does he need to pick up that Brentford player? How is he going to be able to understand the moment if he's not in it? Cucurella follows this run, but then it quickly turns into a situation that Chelsea cannot follow from. Mbomo makes a good run towards the byline, and again, remember that pass I mentioned just a second ago? It's too easy. Brentford played exactly the same pass. This time, instead of rolling it along the floor, it was lofted in the air towards the back post. Again, Chelsea switched off. Brentford capitalising, and at the back post, you have Ethan Pinnock, who was brilliant from a defensive point of view, but at the same time able to get that header and smash it towards goal. Chelsea switching off yet again. This is a better look at it again from the air, like we did with the last scenario. The ball gets played through. The player runs off of a Chelsea player towards the byline, plays his pass through over the top, and it's just far too easy. Chelsea switch off. Disasi switches off at the back post right here. He doesn't read the flight of the ball. He doesn't read where his man is. Pinnock actually is unmarked, completely unmarked, and before Chelsea managed to realise, it is too late. it's far, far too late. The ball is currently in the air, and you're seeing the likes of Madueke trying to get back, but he fails to. He cannot beat Pinnock in the air, and it's just such a good job from Brentford. This is how they get their goals. It's not a secret. They are one of the best at accurate crosses. They are one of the best at set pieces, and they are fantastic at it. And finally, this is one of the moments. Key individual battle for the second goal. Robert Sanchez is out of his goal. I'm not too sure about the commitment from that. How many goalkeepers do you see actually scoring goals? Alisson has done it recently, but I can't think of anyone else. And this is a key moment. The ball gets played off out from the header, from the corner, and it's all about winning the duel. Can they win the duel? He is out-muscled, Maatsen is, and Bomo just wanted it that little bit more. And then the final damning thing that I'll say is look at the amount of Brentford players ready to sprint forwards. You've got 1, you've got 2, you've got 3 on the move. He's ready to go as well. Look at the Chelsea players. Look at the Chelsea players. Not there. Just not there at all. Not being able to pick any kind of moment. No player is reading the danger properly. No player is really being intense enough about that work rate. Everyone's watching the ball. Not good enough. But Brentford managed to capitalise. Brentford with a side that were willing to give it all. Brentford with a side with a game plan. And the tactical nous to be able to just put that game plan into motion. Thomas Frank, in my opinion, has had yet another masterclass. Mauricio Pochettino needed to read the game that little bit better and make substitutions to help Chelsea come back into the game. He failed to do that, and it was the Brentford boss that came out on top. Top class, if you ask me. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on Chelsea and Brentford. How did you see this game? And do you think Chelsea can bounce back? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learnt something new. And I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, take care.